start your day. Now go and tell all the neighbors, yeah. Then crank up the radio. There's infotainment, brilliance to get you on your way. Wake up and start your day with Jimmy Lakey.
Well, greetings and salutations to you this morning. Good morning. Jimmy Lakey is my name, the dulcet tones of the Lakester, back behind the radio. It's Cinco de Mayo, everybody. I almost wore a sombrero, but I did not want to cause the controversy of cultural appropriation on this show, because God knows we're very concerned about cultural appropriation and we're very concerned about being politically correct on the program. Actually, I don't have a sombrero, or I would have wore it. And my friends, you're welcome, and I'm sure you appreciate that. Everybody wear your sombrero to work day. It's like take your children to work day, but different. It's happy Cinco de Mayo, a celebration that is purely an American drinking festival, not really celebrated much widespread in Mexico, but doggone it, you can get some cheap Corona today if you really work at it. So happy Cinco de Mayo. De Mayo. De Mayo. You say De Mayo, I say De Mayo. Let's call the whole thing off. Anyway, good to have you. If you don't speak Spanish, that means it's the 5th day of May, year of our Lord 2025. So if you're wanting to remember the date today, it's 5 times 5 equals 25. Man, the creativity on this program is just unbelievable. And the mathematics, can you believe that? Not only are we intellectually brilliant, we are also mathematically genius is what we are. Anyway, good morning to you. It's Monday. Everybody have a good weekend. Beautiful day the Lord has made. I had a good weekend. Very good weekend. We had this thing called a community garage sale. I saw these signs up for days and weeks and said, we're having a community garage sale. And I'm like, does that mean we have to open the gate and let down the moat? I don't know how that works. Do you mean there's going to be strangers matriculating through my neighborhood? Not sure I like that very much. Not sure I like that. So we alerted the security team and made sure that we were out there, armed guards, guarding every... No, actually, so Saturday morning, I said, community garage sale. How does that work? Maybe when I was a kid, I might have gone to a garage sale. I'd never done a garage sale. So I got up and I was doing stuff around the house. And I said, man, there's some things in the garage I need to just take to Goodwill or take to the dump or giveaway or something. I don't know what to do. And then I went to get a cup of coffee. And driving, I saw that some of my neighbors actually had stuff sitting in their driveway. And I said, so it's a driveway sale, not a garage sale. So there's a little miscalculation there. So after getting some cup of coffee, I said, well, I guess, I got some stuff in my garage. I should set it outside. So I started setting some things outside that I knew needed to go to Goodwill, things that had not been touched in a while. And I just started setting them out there. And then people started coming, and I'm very, very nervous that people are matriculating through the neighborhood, walking up and going, how much you want for this? And I'm like, I don't know. I didn't think I had to price them. I wanted to say, just take it because you're doing me a favor to take the crap out of here. So I just started throwing out prices, and evidently I'm a good pricer because before I know it, I've got stuff going here, stuff going there, and I'm looking and I go, I think we got 3 board games left that I took from my son's old childhood collection. I think I have those, and that's it. And so anyway, you'll be proud of me. I knew you'd be proud of me. I participated in a garage sale this weekend, and I think the total haul was about $260. I already spent it. My son said he needed money in his account at college. So I said, okay, there's $260. So anyway, happy garage sale day to you. If you participated in community garage sale, it was new to me. And people are out on mission, man. I guess it's the whole thing garage selling. I didn't know. Maybe it's a lady thing. There are a lot of couples out, families out, riding their bikes around, coming to the garage sale. It was fun. It was a lot of fun. I made $200 and something in a couple of hours. So it's not a bad day. Anyway, happy Monday to all of you. I hope you had as much fun as I did because my weekend was all about garage sailing, and that's exciting. I can't imagine going to a garage sale because if they don't want it, why do I want it? I don't know, but maybe it's big. If you've ever had, okay, here's a question of the day. I did not plan for this. What is the best thing you've ever, if you're a garage seller, a Goodwill person, I know people that have find china, rare paintings at Goodwill or those types of secondhand stores. If you've ever had a good haul or found something, a hidden treasure at a yard sale or a Goodwill or a garage sale, I'd love to hear it. Put it in the chat room, wherever you're at, whatever platform you're listening. If you're on the YouTubes, if you're on the Rumble, make a comment and we will see that populate right here into the studio, and producer Chad will have the capability of popping it on the screen right below my chin and right above my, rather than the microphone level. See, he puts it right there. He's very talented like that. It took skilled placement to get it right there. So your best find at a garage sale. Have you ever found a famous painting, an autograph book? I do know people that have found fine kind of dishes and flatware in China that were very valuable, and they buy for like $2 a champagne flute, and the next thing you know, they're selling it for $75 on eBay because it's a profit. People find stuff. So let us know your best garage sale, flea market, secondhand store find. If you've ever found something hot and valuable at a garage sale, a hidden treasure, let us know about it. Facebook.com/Jimmy Lakey fan page. Good morning, all the Jimmy Lakey page. Good morning, Red Wave America. Good morning to the media equalizer out there as a crowd gathers in the Twitter. The X is just my name, Jimmy Lakey. Good morning to the Rumble feed, the YouTube feed. Good to have all of you there. So what is your hottest item you have ever found at a garage sale? A lot of people checking in this morning as the crowd begins to gather as we get going here on this edition of the Lakey Unleashed Daily Update. Cody says, good morning, Jimmy and Chad. Well, good morning. And I said, evidently, I told the whole crowd, I see it now. Good morning, everyone. Happy Cinco de Mayo. Rich is checking in from the springtime in the Ozarks. He says it's beautiful. Hey, it ain't bad here in Colorado either. It ain't bad at all, especially if you want to go garage sailing. What's the hottest item you've ever found at a garage sale or a secondhand store? I'd love to hear your story on that because I bet some of you have found something quite valuable. And that was kind of my fear. I had a bike, a mountain bike that I had not ridden in a while, and it was taking up space. And we had other bikes in the garage, and I said, I don't need bike. We got to get them out of here. And I kind of felt like I was giving it away. It's like I don't know, it's not the most expensive bike, like $400 or $500 bike. Yeah, what would you price that at, Delilah? What would you price that at? Well, I had trouble with people say, what's the Monopoly game cost? I said, I got 4 of them, so I had $2. And I'm like wheeling and dealing out there as if I had made up prices in advance. I was just making crap up. I did sell the bike. It was a Gary Fisher brand, which is pretty good at mountain bike branding. And I sold that one. I've got other things for sale. By the way, contact me if you'd like to buy something. I got all the leftovers are in the trunk, and we can do deals in the parking lot today. I'll be happy to do that for you. All right, the Papal Conclave is going to get into play today. Everybody ready for the Papal Conclave? Have you got your bets placed in Vegas? I wonder if that's a deal. Do people place bets in Vegas on who the Pope's going to be? That seems like it could be very, very sinful. Anybody see the photo that Donald J. Trump put up last week as a joke, as jesting? He put it up as he was dressed in the papal gear in response to the jokes that happened with Lindsey Graham last week, saying that Donald Trump's going to be the Pope, and people have been joking about that. And so Donald Trump put up a photo of him photoshopped in papal vestiges, and some people are just offended by that. They cannot believe that he would do that. They would not believe that he would do that. How rude. And what's funny is I saw several people post and said, oh, my Catholic friends, does this offend you? In other words, I'm not offended, but I want you Catholics to be offended. It's that kind of, when you have to post, all my Catholic friends, are you offended? When you're having to fish for them to be offended, when you're having to ask them and beg them, please tell me you're offended by the orange man in the white suit. Please tell me you're bothered. Then probably you're making a bunch of do about nothing. If you're having to ask your Catholic friends, that's like saying, I'd like to ask my Mexican friends, are you offended that Jimmy wore a sombrero? Well, if they were offended, they probably would have spoken for themselves. They don't need you out there rabble-rousing, or as Barack Obama called it, community organizing. But there's been a lot of community organizing gathered about Donald Trump. For all my Catholic friends, are you offended by this photo? And his old Donald Trump in his papal vestiges. I thought it was funny. I thought it was funny. Maybe I am not sensitive enough to the ways of the Lord. But if any of you were offended, feel free to chat on that. But the Papal Conclave begins in 2 days. You hear they had to put in that chimney. I guess every few years they put the chimney up so they can put the smoke out. And they actually add chemicals in. If they want it to burn black or kind of a dark gray, they put chemicals in the papers as they burn the ballots. And if they want it to burn white, they also put chemicals in and make it burn white. And when the white smoke comes out, I guess that's when you know you got a pope. So it would say betting odds in Vegas. I don't know. I don't know enough of the characters. I don't have my Pokemon cards or my Popal cards. And so I don't know who to choose in this thing. But it is fascinating, isn't it? Just really fascinating. And I realized last night as I was going to bed, and I had caught fully up because I've been traveling, I had to catch up on American Idol. And if you ever want to see a scene, you come watch American Idol with me. I'm a mess. I just get the music. First of all, that was my first career was music, right? So I was in the music business, and so I love good music, a good interpretation of music. And I sit there, I'm like an old woman in church. I wave my hanky, yeah. Then it's a great American Idol. But after watching American Idol, I said I should go to bed for the program because we have to wake up and do the show. And then I said, shoot, I should watch the movie Conclave because I still haven't watched it. Evidently, numbers on the movie are still going through the roof. Everybody wants to know what's going to happen behind closed doors. Did you know if you're in the Vatican this week, if you're a janitor, excuse me, if you're, I guess, the cold's almost gone. Got a little remnant of it, though. If you're a janitor, if you're a doctor, they have anybody that's at the Vatican this week in the near the conclave, if they leak any information out, they are threatened with excommunication. They will be excommunicated from the Catholic Church because it's all top secret. It has to be done in secret. They have to do the votes in secret. So anyway, so warning, if you're listening to us from the Vatican, keep your loose lips sink ship, and loose lips will probably also get you excommunicated, and that'd be a bad thing. So don't do that. Don't leak any information, but put your money on the table and see who it is that's going to be. That's a great point. On the screen, interrupting me, Kathy. Like a true lady she is. She's interrupting me, telling me my thoughts don't matter. Put my thoughts up. So we did. Kathy, she says, how many times has the left made fun of us holy rollers? That's true. I mean, the left has never found an evangelical or a Christian that stands up for conservative traditional values that they won't make fun of, but they get their panties in a bunch whenever Donald Trump puts himself out in papal vestiges. I thought it was funny. Anyway, I bet you what else we got in the news is. So we have the papal conclave. New job numbers came out Friday. We talked about that and how they look good for President Trump. President Trump and the Department of Justice are suing the state of Colorado. A lot of you, because of my background in Colorado, a lot of you tune in from Colorado, and we get a lot of plays throughout the day as we do the podcast version of this from Colorado. And I don't know if you see this, that the Department of Justice has sued Denver and the state of Colorado specifically because of our policies on favoring illegal aliens. Did you hear this? It's a true story. The Department of Justice has sued Denver and Colorado for alleged interference in immigration enforcement. It's a really interesting story because we tell you how crazy Colorado is. And we've had our friend Sheriff Steve Reams program before, talking about how it is illegal for his jail in any way. If they have an illegal that has a marker on him and needs to be deported, it is illegal for that sheriff's office or a police officer to call and say, hey, ICE, we're about to let Pablo or Juan out of jail, and so do you want to pick him up? It's illegal. You cannot coordinate with ICE in any way, and they can actually go to jail or be prosecuted by the state if they do. So the Department of Justice is now suing the state of Colorado, run by crazy radical liberal libtard Democrats and Jared Polis, a feckless failed governor. And the city of Denver also has been sued for interfering with federal immigration enforcement. The lawsuit filed in Colorado District Court accuses the state and its most populous city of implementing sanctuary city laws in violation of the supremacy clause of the Constitution of the United States of America. So good morning, Colorado. I hit the mic button, but there's no mic camera, so I had to turn off the cough button. So good morning, Colorado. Your lawsuit or your tax dollars are now going to get to fight well, you're going to be standing up with your tax dollars and telling the U.S. government that Colorado does want to be a sanctuary state. Never forget it. Colorado under Jared Polis has become a sanctuary state. And I say good for the Trump administration for suing their asses because it's a violation of the supremacy law, that no state can have a law that's going to interfere with the federal law. And yet Jared Polis and the libtards that run the state of Colorado think that they are God, and they think that they are better than anybody else, and that we should worship them and not the Constitution of the United States. Well, Jared, you have been told many times as a governor, from the times that you shut down churches during COVID, and it took the Supreme Court of the United States to get you to open them up because you don't like the people that want to go to a church and worship God because you prefer that they worship you the way you worship Marlon. That's what they think. That's what you think, sir. But guess what? We choose to take you to court every once in a while. And so far, Jared, you jackwagon, your record at the Supreme Court of the United States is not real good. If you go through all the things that Jared Polis in the state of Colorado have been taken to court for, remember, we were the first state in Colorado that decided that Donald Trump should not be on a ballot because somebody used the word insurrection. He was never charged with an insurrection. There was no insurrection on January the 6th, but Donald Trump was taken off the ballot temporarily in the state of Colorado. And guess what? The courts jumped in and said, hey, you jackwagons that run the state of Colorado, you can't do that. I'm sorry, the Constitution does not allow that. When it came to locking Christians and believers and Jews out of church, you could go to the strip club, you could go to the pot shop, you could go to the liquor store, you could go to Home Depot and Lowe's, but you were not allowed to get together on a Sunday, Wednesday, Monday, Tuesday, Friday, any day that ended in Y. Jared Polis, because he was connected with the Chinese and the booger cootie virus, he knew that you might get the booger cootie virus if you went to worship your Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. So he locked you out of church with threat of the law coming down upon your head. And finally, the tyranny of Jared Polis was slapped down by the Supreme Court. Jared, the things that you have stood for in the state of Colorado have not fared very well once they actually have the light of the Constitution shown upon them. And if Jared, if you ever decide to run for president, which I'm sure your arrogant narcissism you shall one day, I will be out there with many other people reminding America that anytime your policies have had the light of the Constitution of the United States shown upon them, they have oftentimes been rejected. There's some other constitutional things that I think are going to happen on the Second Amendment. He's been shot down on some of those policies that he has signed. Again, remember this about the governor of Colorado. Anytime he has been taken to court and the policies have been had the light of the Constitution shown upon them, Jared Polis has been slapped down like a I got to choose my words carefully, but he's been slapped down because Jared Polis does not understand the Constitution of the United States of America. And so it's going to be interesting to watch this lawsuit happen, saying, Jared, you signed a bill that violates the supremacy clause of the Constitution. Again, Jared Polis consistently signing bills that violate the Constitution, and the courts have proven that this is the tyranny that we live under this man named Polis. All right, so that's going to be interesting to watch. Here's another thing that I want to go to my guest here, but I'm wondering if this is going to get and I actually hope it does. I mean, it's our tax dollars, but I hope it does. I mentioned this story on, what day was that? Friday. Yeah, today's Monday. That the Colorado High School Activities Association, we call it CHSSA, C-H-S-S-A, a real dysfunctional bunch of dweebs that run that organization, but they have responded to a letter with nearly 80 school administrators that said, hey, we've got to, don't make us have biological boys competing in girls' sports. So 80 different districts and 80 different administrators and 80 different school board members called on CHSSA, the Colorado High School Athletic Association, to stop the stupidity of allowing biological boys. That's a boy that has his berries and twig, and that's how you know you're a biological boy. If you're born with a twig and berries, then you can't compete in girls' sports. Well, CHSSA bylaws say you can. And CHSSA has adopted rules that basically say we're going to stand by having biological boys slam volleyballs in the face of your little girls. We're going to stand by having biological boys that have hit puberty as a male running around with lacrosse sticks and banging the crap out of your girl on the rugby court or the rugby pitch because they've or the lacrosse pitch. We stand by it. Boys, knock them out like they did in the Olympics. CHSSA has done that. Well, remember what happened to us at the state of Maine? That the governor there said she would not change the policies, and because she would not change the policies, the president and the Department of Justice sued her, the state of Maine. Well, I'm guessing if they're suing Jared Polis off his over his illegal immigration policy, I'm guessing there could be a lawsuit coming to Colorado over their stupidity when it comes to boys playing in girls' sports. So, Colorado, prepare your pocketbooks, because your tax dollars are about to be spent defending off the lawsuits from the Colorado schools. I'm guessing that's coming. Kathy jumps in, withhold federal funding from Colorado. I go for it. Go for it, because we have a governor and a bunch of idiots that run our state that have driving it right into the ground. And with stupid policies, we're not talking common sense policies. We're talking about, we're not even talking 80-20 majority policies. We're talking 80-20, 90-10 policies that people see the stupidity. But hey, if it's a stupid policy, Jared Polis will stand by it. So lawsuit number 1 has been filed. And I'm guessing real soon we'll have lawsuit number 2 coming because our CHASA, Colorado High School Activities Association, has decided that now the boys can still beat up the girls in the boxing ring. They don't care. Bring it on. Pam Bondi, are you listening? Jared Polis would like to be served today. All right, let's jump to my guest. I'm going overtime here. It's Michael Letts, law enforcement expert, investusa.org. He joins us waiting in the green room patiently. Michael, welcome back, sir. How are you?
Always a privilege to be with you, Jimmy, and you are dead on center. And quite frankly, to answer the question, lawsuits are being prepared by DOJ, and there's more than just another one coming. There's some election lawsuits that have referred to the Department of Justice as well. The only thing we have to be concerned about, Jimmy, is making sure Pam gets the help she needs and doesn't get overwhelmed.
You know, they're going to have our state here in Colorado has gone so downhill under Jared Polis. And I said earlier, anytime Jared's been taken to court, he loses. Anytime his policies have had the light of the Constitution shown upon them, he's been slapped down like a stepchild. I mean, he's been beat down. The Supreme Court knows that he's an unconstitutional jackwagon. They could have an entire new division of the Department of Justice of suing Colorado for the unconstitutional behavior. We need the Colorado wing of the DOJ.
Well, quite frankly, Jimmy, we need not just that, because, you know, that is coming. I mean, we're not going to sue Maine and I give Colorado the same privilege, shall we say, to be in the same boat. Yeah. But here's what really needs to happen, what I want to encourage all of us to begin to consider. It's time we as Americans start suing the government for their actions. And here's what I mean by that. You know, you and I are paying the bills as taxpayers. These policies are going to result in the injury, already have resulted in the injury of numerous women. That's uncalled for and intolerable, Jimmy. We need to be suing the pants off of every one of them, not just for the in office, but individually. It can be done, and we need to be suing them individually to hold them accountable for their just horrendous policy-making decisions. And quite frankly, when we get done taking everything they've got from them, then maybe we ought to consider about seeing whether there's any criminal charges we can apply to them as well.
Yeah, you know, that's one of the things that I know it's only been 100 days since Trump took office, but even these no-name people that have been embezzling USAID and taking money, there's all these stories. I am hearing that charges have been prepared, but I think it would be good for America, you know, just to know who they were and to know how many charges have been filed. What are you hearing on that, Michael? Are some of these egregious things that were, you know, there's one thing to have waste, there's one thing to have abuse, but actual fraud in the government. Right. We're suing some states, but what about some of these government employees that have been living high on the hog, if you will? Are any of them going to be held accountable, and we know about it, what they are?
Yes, no question that they are, and let me have the president answer directly himself. You know, just last week he was interviewed by, I think it was CNN, to be very boisterous, obnoxious reporter. But one of his questions was, we understand, my sources tell me that there are no active referrals that have been sent to the Department of Justice on any of the criminal activities that you consider criminal in the previous administration. So are we to assume that the slate has been wiped clean and we're just going to concentrate on the future and move forward? The president quickly responded and said, where'd you get your sources? Because I'd like to know what that leak happened. And the guy began to backpedal a little bit, and he said, well, that's just what I understand. He says, well, the reason I need to know is because that's actually false information. There have been countless referrals, criminal indictment referrals sent over to the Justice Department. They are being finalized as we speak. So, yes, people will be held accountable. Those are the president's words. And quite frankly, that was just a few days ago. I think where there's a little bit of frustration, Jimmy, is I'm of the kind that kind of, let's go ahead and file the indictment if we have enough information now. Today, Jimmy, we can always amend it and add to it as more information becomes available. Then there are those that are in the Attorney General's office who say, no, let's make sure we have everything that was possible and all in a nice, neat little row so that nothing is barely out of order before we file anything. I get that. That's just not me. I think the American people want to see some action now. We've heard about it long enough. We want to see handcuffs. We want to see indictments. We want to see people going to prison.
Was anybody ever held accountable? I remember Pam Bondi said, They knew who was leaking the ICE raids out to the media and tipping the hand of the illegals against Immigration and Customs Enforcement. I know Pam Bondi said they had identified some. Do you know if anybody was ever arrested for that?
That was correct. They were arrested. In fact, that trial is going to be getting underway very shortly.
I didn't. Again, I think they need to make more public episodes of this. I haven't even seen that on Fox. I think it needs to be public because it serves as a reminder that don't do this kind of stuff. You can disagree with the policies, but you can't do what they're doing. And I wish they'd do it. I wish they'd do it a little bit more publicly because I wasn't aware that they had arrested anybody.
Well, here's the other thing, Jimmy. We just yesterday got 56 criminal referrals from the Doge Commission for election fraud all across the country. And you love Colorado. Wait until you see if Colorado's on that list. So that was 56 yesterday alone that were said this is on election fraud. You remember most people thought, oh shoot, we forgot about that. We're moving on. No. We're not forgetting about that in the least. If we can't have fair elections and elections with integrity, we don't have a country. So those indictments are coming as well.
Wow. Colorado, buckle up, Buttercup. It sounds like Jared Polis and his merry band of tyrants at the state legislature have 6 or 7 years now of misbehavior that they're about to answer for with lawsuits. And more power to the Department of Justice because, again, anytime these policies in Colorado have gone to court, the Supreme Court always slaps down our governor because his policies never stand up to the light of the Constitution. Very quickly, Michael, let me jump in here. President Trump is signing some executive orders, and not only is he suing the state of Colorado, as announced over the weekend, but he's signed 2 executive orders last week to continue to secure the southern border. He's trying to make it easier for law enforcement locally to participate with ICE, even though, like in Colorado, it's illegal for them to do so, according to the state. What are these new executive orders that have been signed, and how do they strengthen our immigration policy here in America?
Well, quite frankly, what it does is this. It provides financial incentives for those agencies that are willing to allow their agents, their officers to help. You would think that just upholding the law is value enough, but the president's got a little carrot on the end of the stick. If you allow your local or state law enforcement to be of assistance in our ICE and deportation raids, you will be compensated for it. There's additional money coming for that. There's also additional training. And there's also the promise that we're standing behind our law enforcement officers. We're working very closely with the administration to make sure that the issue of protective vests and necessary equipment is provided for those who want to do it. And we've got a proposal that we've asked the president to consider that, Jimmy, you'll get a kick out of. We're asking the president to deputize as deputy U.S. Marshals every retired law enforcement officer in good standing that's willing to accept the commission. What will that do? Let's take Colorado. Now they'll all be federal officers. Now you're just jumping a couple thousand, 2,000 to 3,000, probably more, because we're looking at about 200,000 across the country onto the street immediately. And we'll be paying them and compensating them for the amount of time they want to dedicate. We know if they're retired, they don't want to do it full time. But for the amount they're willing to dedicate, we're willing to compensate them for them. Now they're deputy U.S. Marshals. So the state has no jurisdiction over telling them where they can and can't do anything with illegals. We'll make up the difference if the states don't want to help, the locals don't want to help out. We know they do. It's just some bad policy to try to prevent them from doing so.
Yeah, I've a lot of friends in law enforcement, sheriffs locally and across the state. They all want to participate in the ICE, but they're trying to find the way around that, and this would be great. Let's deputize them all as U.S. Marshals and get on about our merry way. And, hey, yep. Jared, Donald will see you in Trump and in court. The Trump will see you in court.
One thing I want to quickly throw in there that you just mentioned, Jimmy, is we've just announced this morning we picked up 83 illegal immigrants that cross into the border. And unbeknownst to them, they crossed in because we made that whole border military installations. You recall? They crossed into a military installation. So they're under military interdiction right now. They're not going to like what they just happened to them.
Isn't it amazing, Michael? And we'll cut out of here in a second, but the Democrats seem to be backing off their Maryland dad, the old Maryland man. Turns out he's a wife-beating child trafficker, supposedly. He's had a lot of legal issues, and suddenly the new patron saint of the Democrat Party, we weren't really defending him. It was just his due process. They're trying to find every way they can to contort themselves as if they're some kind of a yoga instructor to separate themselves from what they did in the shenanigans of, we're going to El Salvador and going to stare at him in the eyes and lovingly ask if we can kiss him on the lips. They picked the wrong dude.
They sure did, Jimmy. And quite frankly, they're paying for it. And this is just the beginning. We're going to get this thing with our judicial system worked out. It's amazing because half the courts tell you can, the other half tell you can't. Supreme Court doesn't know if it's coming or going. They can't even find the restroom. We're going to get it all resolved. America, just give us a little bit of time. Be patient. But we're going to make sure this country restored to greatness once again.
I would ask Jared Polis, how do you feel about that Maryland daddy? But every time I mention daddies to Jared Polis, he gets very, very hot and bothered, so I don't want to do that to him.
We might send him down there to join him.
Maybe head on down there. He might like it. Michael Letts, it's a privilege to have you here, sir. InvestUSA.org. Great organization people can contribute to, and you are keeping first responders, ICE agents, police agents safe on the streets. Tell us what you do and how people can help you.
We're making sure that everybody we've called upon has the ability to defend this country, has the necessary equipment to defend themselves. Right now, that's not the case. Our criminal element are better armed and better protected than we are, but we can change that. So go to InvestUSA.org, make a contribution of any sort, just to let the officers know that we, the American people, stand behind them. We appreciate what they've done. We've got a lot more work to do, but we're going to get it done, folks. Just get behind us and stay that way.
InvestUSA.org, InvestUSA.org. Michael Letts, I appreciate you. God bless you, my brother. We'll talk to you very soon. I am Jimmy Lakey. Hear the music? We're going to take a very quick break. We're going to let you know some very important information and come back with a candidate for U.S. Senate in the state of, I'll tell you where he's from in just a moment. We're talking about immigration policies continue right here. Jimmy Lakey, stand by. I'll be right back. I promise you. I'm going to be, I'll be back. I don't cry. It's going to be fine. I'll be right back.
1 Hour Heating and Air Conditioning is on call 24/7, even on weekends and holidays. We pride ourselves in our on-time guarantees. In addition to installation and repairs, we offer maintenance services. So no matter when you need us, you can always count on 1 Hour Heating and Air Conditioning to keep your system running. Check out our family of brands for all of your service needs, including electrical and plumbing.
1 Hour Heating and Air Conditioning.
How you holding up? Nothing wrong with getting help.
If I promise to look into it, will you drop it and help me build this fence?
Now you need my help.
If you or a veteran you know needs support, don't wait. Reach out. Find resources at va.gov/reach.
All right, here I am back. I promise you I would be. I didn't want you to cry, and cry you did not. Welcome to the program, everybody. Hey, don't forget, if you're watching this live this morning at, 8:33 Mountain Time, that would make it 10:33 Eastern Time, 7:33 Pacific Time. If you're watching this live on any of the streaming platforms, thank you and good morning. If you're listening to the audio only later in the day, glad to have you listen to that. Sorry, I'm holding back a cough here is what I'm doing in that. The breathing is me trying to fight that cold again. All right, let me welcome in the program my next guest. By the way, listen to us on all the streaming platforms. That is on the iHeart app, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and just look up Jimmy Lakey Unleashed. And if you missed this part of the program live, you can go listen to it later on in the day. I want to welcome into the program Mr. John Deaton. He's a candidate for U.S. Senate. Also I would say former Marine, but there is no such thing as a former Marine, so I'm not going to read what his publicist put out about him. John Deaton, good morning. First of all, introduce yourself to the great audience and you're running for Senate.
Good morning. I'm John Deaton. I am not currently running for Senate, contemplating. I was the Republican nominee in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and I ran against Elizabeth Warren last time. And I'm contemplating running against Ed Markey. Just put things in perspective. I'm not a young man, as you can see, by any standard. But when Ed Markey first went to Washington, Jimmy, I was 9. He's been there. He's been there 50 years. I'm 57 years old, basically. He's been there almost 50 years, 48, 49 years. But I'm thinking about, Massachusetts has lost its way. Every statewide and federal office in Massachusetts occupied by far left radicals who favor illegal aliens over combat vets, a governor who spends billions on these migrants. Because in Massachusetts, we have a right to shelter law that doesn't require residency, Jimmy. So Massachusetts has become one of the biggest border states in the country because when they come here, they're being put up in hotels and fed upwards to like 75,000 a year per migrant, and it's bankrupting the state, man.
President Trump, they announced on Friday they're suing the state where I'm at, Colorado, and the city of Denver for the sanctuary policies. I was just talking to my previous guest, Michael Letts, that it's actually illegal, signed by our governor, that if a sheriff or a police department calls up ICE and says, hey, we have this criminal that you have a detainer on him, come get him. It's illegal for the officers or the cops to even call the ICE and let them know they have that person in custody. We're not the only state. It sounds like Massachusetts also gone back crap crazy.
Oh, absolutely. We have the same situation here. The mayor of Boston, the governor, what they're doing, though, and it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. Tom Homan came out and said, listen, you don't have to like it and you don't have to help us, but you better not help them evade deportations. And we've seen the arrest of a judge in Milwaukee who actually escorted an illegal migrant while a domestic victim sitting in the courtroom, notwithstanding a secret door to exit to evade capture. She was arrested and charged. And we may see elected leaders because they are taking steps to help these illegals evade lawful deportations. And so it's going to be interesting to see. Tom Homan said, stand by. We might see an elected official arrested.
You can disagree with the policy, you can state your case, you can think the border should be open, but the laws on the books are the laws on the book. Now, what's interesting, John Deaton, is that they keep saying that I heard a guy yesterday on, I think it was a DNC chairman. He goes, I'm really glad that we have our border secure. I just wish he would follow the law and the Constitution in doing it. That's kind of that statement's so false. I mean, everything that he's doing, in my estimation, humble opinion, is lawful, but they keep trying to make it sound like it's illegal what he's doing. Give me your thoughts on the legality and the due process arguments they're making against these deportations.
Well, listen, this is the thing. They want to reward people who their first act in America is to violate our process and then cloak them with the protections of all of those process. Due process does matter. Now, the Democrats want that due process to be, long trials for each person, because you got to understand something. Just put in perspective, President Obama, George W. Bush, and Clinton, they deported millions of immigrants here illegally, not one injunction against them. President Trump is at 100,000 deportations and has had 30 injunctions against him by these federal activist judges. And so what they're trying to do is, it is true. In our country, a non-citizen has a right, if you're on American soil, has a right to due process. But the definition of that due process is where we're going to fight. I think, a notice within 24 hours and you're given a brief hearing is adequate enough. But the Democrats want, a much broader, prolonged process system.
Give me your thoughts. We talk about 80-20 issues or 90-10 issues. The borders, the deportation, this is still areas that even after 100 days, Donald Trump's still polling very high. You live in a Democrat conclave of Massachusetts. Can you figure out the rhyme or reason and even the strategy of why the Democrats continue to hitch their wagons, if you will, to illegal gangbangers like the Maryland Dad and the MS-13 in Tren de Aragua? What's the strategy? Have you figured that out among the Democrats that you're surrounded by?
That's a great question. And to try to figure it out, when I was running for Senate in May of last year, Jimmy, I went to the border. I used to be stationed in the Marines at Yuma, Arizona. I went back and I was shocked. I don't care what your political affiliation is. If you went to the border like I did and learned that they had bus stops and the migrants would come there, they wait, they get picked up, they don't have documents, they go to a processing center. I don't know how you process them when they don't have any documents. And they were given court dates 8 years later, Jimmy, 8 years, 2032, 2033, when I was there last year. And I left there saying, this is intentional. We know that President Trump has secured the borders, illegal crossings down 98%. President Biden didn't need a piece of paper from Congress. He could have shut it down. And so it's intentional. And I think we're seeing that intention play out. Bring all these illegals, trying to stack the deck, for places like Massachusetts to forever be Democratic. Give them amnesty because you can't process them, when you invoke this due process and try to prolong their deportations. Just forgive them, give them amnesty, make them Democrats. It's hard to come up with any other logical explanation, but I'm open if you have a different idea, my friend.
It doesn't make sense because you just look at the polling data; they're way out of touch. And when you become so deranged by Donald Trump that you're willing to side on the side of a Trendejaroga or an MS-13 gangbanger, then you've got mental problems. I mean, as Ann Coulter said years ago, liberalism is a mental disorder, and it really is. This Trump derangement syndrome is real because look at the polling numbers. The polling numbers just don't make any sense for these Democrats on this issue, and yet they keep pounding that same issue. I just don't get it.
Did you see the reaction of those Maryland residents, though, when they went back and they brought up Abrego Garcia? The residents were like, yes, keep him out of here. We don't want him here.
Yeah.
So, they're forcing these people in communities that they don't have to live in, which is the highest state of hypocrisy.
Yeah. The voice of John Deaton will tell you more about him in just a moment if you're listening to the audio-only podcast version of the show. Some of you are watching it live. You get to see both of our beautiful faces, but if you're listening only on the Apple Podcast or the Spotify later on in the day, that's John Deaton. We'll tell you how to contact him, where you can locate more of his information at. But John, another interesting idea, and I think sometimes Donald Trump floats stuff just to tweak people. For instance, I was joking.
He never does that.
Never does that. For instance, he put out the meme of him in the papal vestiges all white, and people got all bothered, and he floats this idea that he's going to run for a third term over the weekend. He said, no, I'm not running for a third term, but he just likes to tweak them. Well, I don't know if this is true or tweak, but one of the biggest, tourist attractions, if you go to California right now, is the island of Alcatraz. And Donald said, hey, if El Salvador can put all these creepy illegals in a real secure prison, we need to go paint the walls, refurbish, turn on the water at Alcatraz, and let's start putting our illegals there. Is he goading the left out? Is he goading the media out there? Or is this a serious idea?
I think it's an interesting idea. It really comes down. I think it's a great idea, except obviously what they've said is that running Alcatraz is 3 times or 4 times more expensive than, a non-Alcatraz type prison. But I think this is Donald Trump owning the left and owning the media, and he's the best at that because they lose their mind. And look what they caused him to do. What he caused them to do, Jimmy, they latched on to the Maryland man, and made this guy seem like he was just this hill to die on, this great wannabe American family man, father. And we know how that turned out. And so I think this is Trump just owning them, and they just don't know what to do. Sometimes I look back, I sit back, and I just like, wow, no one has ever owned a group of people like this guy.
Yeah, to me, and here's what his actual Truth Social quote said. Today, I'm directing the Bureau of Prisons, together with the Department of Justice, FBI, and Homeland Security, to reopen a substantially enlarged and rebuilt Alcatraz, all caps. He said the prison would, quote, house America's most ruthless and violent offenders. The media is all tweaked about this prison in El Salvador. I think it's Donald Trump saying, probably never going to happen. It's not going to happen, but let's tweak them and say, yeah, we like prisons like this. It's just it's kind of fun to watch. It's pop the popcorn to this guy.
No, absolutely. Because when you look at what Nayib Bukele, the El Salvador's president's done, El Salvador at one point was one of the most dangerous places in the world, and now it's one of the most safest places in the world. And he puts those prisoners in maximum facilities, some of the greatest, biggest, worst gangbangers in the world. And of course, already you have the left saying, look, Donald Trump wants to do that to Alcatraz and human rights and all the human rights violations that he wants to do. I think you're right. I think he's just owning them and having fun.
John Deaton, I appreciate you hopping in here today. You're thinking about running for Senate in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Keep us posted on that. If folks want to follow the work of John Deaton, I'm sure you have some presence on social media, website. Where do they go?
You go on X at John E. Deaton, DEATON 1, John E. Deaton 1 on X. And I wrote a book called Food Stamp Warrior. It's available on Amazon.
Quick synopsis of the book, Food Stamp Warrior.
Single mom, welfare, food stamps, living in the top 5 worst neighborhoods in America, where some really bad stuff happened. I was a high school dropout like everyone in my family for a while. High school principal of a tiny Catholic high school gave me a chance, and that's all I needed. And it's about overcoming adversity in life and achieving the American dream. It's very raw and unedited. The Democrats were quite upset because I didn't edit my book. I said, life's not edited, so I'm not going to edit the book.
John E. Deaton 1 on the X, I believe. Is that correct?
That's right. Thank you, Jim.
You got it, John. Appreciate you. Have you back on. We'll talk again soon. John E. Deaton 1. Follow him on the X, and the name of the book is called Food Stamp Warrior. All right, ladies and gentlemen, before I go to my next guest of the morning, Dr. Carol Lieberman, America's psychiatrist, is sitting in the green room psychoanalyzing me right now as we speak. So I've got to sit up straight, pay attention, and behave myself. I want to remind you about Sherry Cree, homeswithsherry.com, homeswithsherry.com. Sherry's going to help you, my friends, if you're in the state of Colorado watching this program, up that I-25 corridor. You've got, let's take it from, let's say, Castle Rock, drive on up north. You head into Highlands Ranch, Littleton. You get into the tech center. You get into Denver. You go north of that. You end up in Thornton. Oh, you know the tour. Come on up. You go on up to the Longmont exit, Fort Collins, you have Windsor, Wellington, that I-25 corridor. Even if you're in Trenday, Aragua, Aurora, she can help you. Homeswithsherry.com, homeswithsherry.com. It's a perfect time of year to have that conversation about what are your real estate goals and your real estate dreams. Sherry approaches it not about let's just sell a house and bid you adieu. Sherry approaches it like, hey, let's make sure what's your long-term strategy. She knows that real estate can create generational wealth if you play the game correctly. So she's had people meet with her and talk through some strategies of kind of where they wanted to be in 2 years, 5 years, 10 years. And then they didn't call her back. And she said, well, I guess I offended them. Then they called her back a couple of years later. She says, oh, did you move? No, we stayed where we're at. You gave us such good advice. We just stayed here, and now it's time. Listen, she wants to help be a part of that strategy. Just put a different set of eyes on it. Talk to her about the market in each of these different areas that I talked about, and talk about the school district. She can give you insight on that. She can also talk about predictions and just the overall Colorado real estate market, the best cities, the best places to buy. And hey, catch this. People wonder about that interest rate. She can kind of walk you through on some strategies there as well. Homeswithsherry.com, homeswithsherry.com. Make sure you mention whether you're buying or selling, moving into the state of Colorado, moving out of the state of Colorado. She can get you set there as well. Don't forget, portion of her proceeds she donates to the charity of your choice. That's just because she's a very giving lady, and I'm glad to have her support on the program. Homeswithsherry.com, homeswithsherry.com. Ladies and gentlemen, the psychoanalysis is done. Her brain is spinning right now. To break the news to me, it's Dr. Carol Lieberman, America's psychiatrist. Dr. Lieberman, welcome back in.
Thank you so much.
How did the psychoanalysis that I passed? Did I look all right there?
Yes, you look good today.
All right, just making sure. Do I seem unhinged or anything? Any reason to institutionalize me?
Not yet.
It's coming.
It's coming.
Dr. Lieberman, America's psychiatrist, is on the horn with us, and we're glad to have her. Dr. Lieberman, I saw this story, and I'm thinking we've gone back crap crazy, and we need a psychiatrist as a nation. Help me understand this story. I'm sure you saw. Judge has released one of these jackwagons that was burning down Tesla dealerships and said, you go home and just stay at home and be a good person, because the reason for getting out of jail was the person he needed to continue his gender-affirming care. So can't keep him in prison for bombing the Tesla dealerships because he's got to have his gender care. What?
Yes. It gets more ridiculous and unbelievable by the day. People they just want to do the opposite. They're just trying to stand in Trump's way. Here, this is a young man, Owen McIntyre. He was 19 years old, first year college student in Massachusetts. And he went home for a spring break. And he decided, to have some fun. So he threw Molotov cocktails at Cybertrucks, or a Cybertruck, and the blaze spread to another Cybertruck, and also some charging stations. And so he was arrested. And yes, as you said, a judge decided that, rather than keep him in detention awaiting his trial, that she can't do that because he has to go home to keep up with his gender affirming care. Now, it's interesting. is that she started to get hormones at the beginning of March, and this attack on Tesla was March 17th. So it's really, to be honest, it's really kind of confusing whether it was a she or a he to begin with and what kind of hormones they would be getting. But in any case, I think they started. Obviously, they would have had to have started before throwing the Molotov cocktails at the Teslas, because then that is when the issue came up about whether they should still get the gender affirming care. So, I'm mentioning that because the hormones may well have contributed to this as well. Now, what's interesting too, and they have proof of this, there's no question that this person did it, because they have surveillance footage, they have witness testimony, they have DNA, they have all kinds of things. They have him dead to rights. So now the judge decided that they could go home, be with their parents, continue their gender affirming care, which I don't quite understand. If he's compelled to stay at home, how is he going to get to the doctors? But I guess there's an exception for going to doctors for this gender affirming care. But it's the whole story is unbelievable and interesting. But what also is interesting is that there now seems to be a sort of compilation of mental illnesses du jour. In other words, what she allegedly has is on the autism spectrum disorder, ADHD, gender dysphoria, and depression. Those are the mental illnesses du jour. That's what everybody has.
Yeah.
So I guess nobody should be in jail, because if you have these problems, you can't. Jail is not very kind, to your mental health.
I'm sitting here thinking that if your gender affirming care is reason for you to be let go out of jail, then if I'm a prisoner in prison right now, I'm saying, hey, there's precedent, and I'm now transitioning, and I'm all of a sudden using that and say, I got to get out of here. There's precedent. You got to let me go. I need out of here. I need some gender affirming care.
Yes. It makes me think of, this is happening all over, and it's all to stop Trump. It was happening before Trump got elected again, but with all these these DAs, these progressive DAs, who won because of Soros. Thank God in Los Angeles, we got rid of the last progressive DA, and now there's Hochman. But there was Gascon before, and he was just horrendous. But it's such a ridiculous thing. It's like these judges are acting out. They're rebelling. They're acting like teenagers.
Yeah.
By deciding that they're not going to keep these people in jail. I'll show the system. I'm gonna let them all out. So,
yeah, if you're listening to the show and you're in the pokey right now, you might want to think about transitioning and see if you can get out by the afternoon. Let me ask you this question. I saw some of the photos of some of these people arrested across America that were doing the Tesla bombings back when that was their I guess their activity of the week was to bomb a Tesla dealership or vandalize a car. And it looked as if, and I heard speculation that there were several of them that looked like maybe they were in this transgender world. Has there been any affirmation of this, that was something that it just, is it a coincidence that a lot of the folks that were doing this Tesla stuff were trans, it looked like?
Well, I noticed that too. I don't know that there are statistics on that yet, but it certainly would be interesting to try to find out.
Yeah.
It kind of goes with the whole left progressive philosophy, politics, and so on to begin with. But yes,
yeah, it'd be interesting to figure that one out, because ultimately it comes back to Health and Human Services, Robert F. Kennedy. Eventually, you mentioned some of these other anxieties and these other disorders, mental health disorders. Kennedy's thought is, hey, maybe we're doing something in our environment or taking it into our body that are causing some of these mental afflictions that seem to be so prevalent. So let's start looking at that. And I'm just wondering, speculation on my part, if with this transphoria that's happening with the modern Democrat Party, if one day we're going to look back and say, wow, you whipped everybody up into a frenzy about this stuff. And some people said, oh, that's me. I want to transition as well. And then they find out that the damage they did was damage that is not necessarily detected, similar to our food processes and similar to some things we get in the doctor's office.
Well, I think he's on the right track. I think that it's a combination of factors. I think vaccines are part of it. Just in my experience as a psychiatrist, I've come across a number of families with autistic children, whether as patients or as in my work as an expert witness. And I always ask them about, when did you first discover this? And did you have vaccines? How close to the discovery did they have vaccines? And I often get the answer, we had just come to the doctor and we got a bunch of vaccines together.
Yeah, they give a cocktail.
Yes.
They give the cocktail. And that's what I'm wondering if, some even the red dyes that they're taking out of the food. The Europeans knew long ago that the red dyes shouldn't be in your food, and they're using natural colors. And I'm just wondering, the same way that the modern day Democrat for about 2 or 3 weeks were really fascinated with this guy from Maryland that was deported and turns out to be a alleged wife beater, gangbanger, MS-13 type member. And the Democrats, never mind, maybe that was a dumb policy to defend him. If this policy of pushing transgender behavior all the time, if maybe this hormone therapy is not necessarily the best for you, and they're hitched up once again, the Democrats are hitched up to the wrong their wagons hitched to the wrong horse.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, there is going to be, it's already beginning with the people who are detransitioning. Those are the best people to be able to convince the kids and the parents who are thinking of doing that. The detransitioners are the best proof that this is a horrible way to go, that you're more suicidal, that you regret it, and all of that. Like, it's easier for people to believe a detransitioner than it is even a psychiatrist, or certainly a politician saying, don't do this, But yes, it's very sad. A lot of people are realizing that they made a big mistake, and we do have to stop this. Stop these clinics that are just money makers. They're not. They pretend to be out there to help people, but really they are just trying to make money.
Yeah, it's a whole industry that's a cottage industry that's developed, and unfortunately, I think the ramifications of it are going to play out in the next 5-10 years, like some of the other areas we just talked about as well. Things that we thought, it's just perfectly fine, we can do that, and then you go, okay, maybe that's a bad idea. The Terrorist Therapist Show is one of the names of your podcast. Dr. Carol Lieberman is my guest. Doctor, I'm reading here the Terrorist Therapist Show. The latest episode is something about what you don't know about terrorism could hurt you. Explain.
Well, yes. It's all about what I've been trying to do for umpteen years, on the podcast, besides talking about terror attacks that have happened, in the week before or so. I keep trying to drive home the message that they have not stopped, that there are terrorists still out there wanting to kill us. You just have to look at Europe, and, they've taken over Europe. And Israel is the canary in the coal mine. It's not just about Israel. These terrorists decided 1,000 years ago, long before 9/11, that they wanted to take over America, take over the West, take over anyone who doesn't believe in Islam, and especially radical Islam. And these are the unbelievers, according to them. And so we need to pay much more attention to this, and do something, do more than what we're doing. We're just, everybody in America, people have just put their heads in the ground and are just thinking, well, that's over with. And, the kids who are in college, that age, who are doing the protests and so on at college campuses, they, first of all, most of them weren't born when 9/11 happened, so they don't have a clue how bad it is. And also, when they were born soon after, their parents conveyed to them a sense, almost by osmosis, that the world is a dangerous place, that you need Big Brother to save you. So that's why all of them are not, most of them are. That's why so many of them are so gung ho for socialism and communism and Big Brother and all of that. The leftist ideology, because they think they need protection. And at the same time, ironically, at the same time, they don't believe in terrorists. They don't believe that they're going to come back. So that's kind of, I have been trying to to wake people up to this, and it's just a different kind of situation. There are always new things going on every week.
It said the last thing here, Dr. Carol Lieberman is my guest. We'll tell you how you can listen to her podcast here in just a moment. But it is frustrating watching this because you and I are aware we lived through 9/11 and we saw it, and we know that the terrorists are coming across the border. People are just known gotaways. How many of them are on the most wanted list for the world? I mean, a lot of these had Interpol police warrants that have been now sent off to El Salvador. These are some bad hombres that have come into our country. So President Trump invokes a law that is on the books that says, hey, in a state of emergency, you can start deporting people. And he declared a state of emergency and declared Tren de Aragua and MS-13 as terrorist groups. And judges are now stepping in going, wait, you can't protect America like that.
Yes.
That's got to frustrate the heck out of you because you've been raising the alarm thinking we just need a president that will do it. Now we have a judiciary that says he can't protect America.
Yes, that's what I was saying at the beginning, that they are just trying to stop him at every turn. And, even when these things don't make any sense, like, of course, I mean, everybody has to see how dangerous they are. They've done so many things, killed so many people, raped so many people already. It's not like this is a surprise, really. So why would people want these kinds of dangerous people in their neighborhoods? It's not, they don't. But they're so anti-Trump that they just want to stop anything that he has to say.
Ann Coulter said years ago, liberalism is a mental disorder. We would joke and call it Trump derangement syndrome. As a psychiatrist, when you look at this type of behavior, that they're like throwing a tantrum and, no, we don't want the terrorists in our neighborhood, but we don't want Trump to have any success at all. What's the diagnosis for that? I mean, I'm not being silly. There's got to be some kind of a diagnosis of you got something wrong in the head here.
Well, I'm not sure if we've talked about this before or how much we have, but I am like putting the finishing touches on my diagnosis, detailed diagnosis that I laid out for Trump derangement syndrome, the minor, the moderate, and the severe versions of it. And I'm going to be presenting it to the American Psychiatric Association to ask for them to put it as a diagnosis in the next Diagnostic and Statistical Manual. Now, I think if you take a look at the website of the American Psychiatric Association, which I did like a week or two ago to find out how to submit it and all of that, it has changed. It is so woke. It is so DEI. It is so. I used to be very active in the American Psychiatric Association. I was on all kinds of committees and did all kinds of things. And so it has changed. And so has the American Psychological Association, for that matter. And so has the American Medical Association. All these associations that one would like to rely on, for good mental health and good physical health, they've just gone woke and gone crazy.
Is there a name for the diagnosis? I mean, we watch people, that's a narcissist, or that's we have names for it. What is the diagnosis name for the Trump derangement syndrome?
Well, I mean, that's the diagnosis name, Trump derangement syndrome, but there are psychiatric symptoms that go along with it that you can also see for example, anxiety and depression, hysteria, paranoia. Those can be associated with Trump derangement syndrome.
Let me ask you one more quick question on that, because it's amazing how the media, I think, works people to a frenzy, and it shows that people can be indoctrinated. There's a lot of people that have a lot of angst and anxiety about Donald Trump and the Orange Man and Trump derangement syndrome. And if you look at it, you go to the root of it, they have no reason to be worried. They have no reason to fear. They just were told this thing. They were indoctrinated. Right. Is it unusual that a mental health disorder can be, I guess, exacerbated and or antagonized and or triggered by just propaganda? It's not necessarily a chemical imbalance?
Well, yes. Some people are more vulnerable to that than others. I talk, for example, about men with low self-esteem are more vulnerable to Trump derangement syndrome than other men because he is intimidating. He's like an alpha male, and he has everything that, the stereotype of what a man should have: wealth and a beautiful wife and power. And so this is very intimidating to men, especially men who have low self-esteem. So I talk about treatment too. The reason why I want to get it into the DSM is not just to recognize it as a real disorder, but also the DSM has codes for each diagnosis. And that's what insurance companies use to decide whether or not to pay for the treatment of somebody. It shouldn't be the insurance companies deciding this, of course. It should be the psychiatrist, but whatever. So if it's a real diagnosis, then people with TDS would be able to get help. Not that they necessarily want it, they don't want to be cured, but there's a lot of divorces, there are a lot of family problems, all kinds of problems that people get into. And at that point, some of them would like to get help.
Yeah, Dr. Carol Lieberman, if folks want to, well, first of all, somebody asked me to ask you a question, knowing that you're a medical doctor. They said, when did the Hippocratic Oath become the Hippocratic Oath?
Yes. In recent years, I guess certainly before 2020, I guess maybe it's been in the last 10 years because there are a lot of things. I mean, the woke, there's also the whole vaccine issue. There's also, there are a lot of things where doctors didn't come down on the side of the patients. The big thing in terms of psychiatrists didn't come down on the side of the patient in terms of still doing therapy for patients, not just pushing pills.
Yeah. Dr. Carol Lieberman, we mentioned the Terrorist Therapist podcast. If folks want to follow you, listen to one of your podcasts, where do they go, ma'am?
Well, the best website to go to is terroristtherapist.com, terroristtherapist.com. And there's the videos that I created for 10/7 and 9/11. There's all kinds of stuff about terrorism. There's the podcast. The podcast is also wherever podcasts, wherever you can get podcasts. And my book, Lions and Tigers and Terrorists, Oh My, How to Protect Your Child in a Time of Terror.
terroristtherapist.com. Dr. Lieberman, always a pleasure. Thanks for hopping on here, and I look forward to talking more once you submit that diagnosis to the American Psychiatrist. That's fascinating. I'm glad she's doing that because it really is true. Some of these people have, for no reason other than their college professor or their parents or their wife or their own self-esteem, have worked themselves into some kind of a tizzy. And maybe it's just the indoctrination of the weak mind, but it's fascinating to watch how some of these people are still hell-bent on their Trump derangement syndrome. And it's fascinating to watch some of them still going. All right, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Jimmy. Glad to have you here. I want to remind you about our casino gala coming up. It's May the 17th. If you have not registered, what are you waiting for? I don't know what you'd wait for. The price is going to go up here real soon, and it's going to be a fantastic night. You don't have to be somebody. I messaged a friend and said, "Hey, want to come?" He goes, "Well, I'm not much of a gambler." Well, it's not real gambling. It's pretend. It's play. It's a gala. We're not in Vegas. We're not in one of the casinos. You're going to get a handful of chips when you get there, and you go around and play and goof off. If you've never learned to play craps, there'll be a craps instructor there. There's no money on the table. You're not going to lose money because this is a gala. It's all for fundraising. It's all for our Rivers Promise charity. Now, some of you say, I'm busy. I can't be there on May the 17th. It's a week from this coming Saturday. If you can't be there, would you do this? I mean, it's just a serious ask. If you cannot attend, and I hope you attend, the more the merrier. But if you cannot attend, would you consider a donation saying, I can't attend, but here's my donation to Rivers Promise? Our goal that night, and, we're not going to be twisting arms or anything like that. So it's not a high-pressure sales thing. It's a fun thing. We got a Frank Sinatra impersonator that's going to be performing throughout the night. If you think Frank had been reincarnated, there's an open bar, there's going to be food, there's a fire pit. I mean, it's a festive time, okay? This is not a rubber chicken. I'm going to get up and make it a long appeal. As a matter of fact, there'll be very little appeal. It'll be a welcome, and then everybody carries on. The silent auction. It's a party. But our goal that night through the partying is to raise about $50,000. And if you would like to contribute $50 of that, then you do that. But if you cannot attend, would you consider making a donation at riverspromise.org, riverspromise.org? And on the note for that donation, just write, can't attend, here's my donation. I appreciate it. We'll count it towards the goal for that night and do that. But if you can attend, get in now. The prices go up. It's a fun night. There's a block of rooms, if there's any rooms still available, and you can make a staycation of it, or a couple of nights, or one night, or whatever, not have to drive home. But it's going to be a fun night. It's May the 17th. It's coming up a week, just under 2 weeks away. about a week, 14 days, 12 days, I think. It's coming up, and we'd love for you to be a part of it, and we hope you will. Riverspromise.org, you can see how to register. Register a whole table. If you bring some friends, buy a table, and have some of your friends come along and see if they'll contribute. You get the idea. Lots of ways that you can help us, but it's also a good time. Great fun. It's Casino Gala coming up May the 17th, riverspromise.org, riverspromise.org. Ladies and gentlemen, in my right hand, I hold our globe. I hold the world in my hand, except not like the big guy does that, but I hold this mock miniature. And it's because we're cheap. We just spin it and we say, and it's called meme roulette. If you're just watching out there, you're brand new. We have meme roulette. We shamelessly steal memes from all around the globe, and we put them up here for your eyesight to just enjoy. You got about 4 this morning, I'm understanding. So here we go. Round around the world we go. Where we steal the memes from, no one knows. This is just a statement. There's no photo to explain. It says your gender was assigned by God. He was not confused. I rest my case. Round around the world we go. Where we steal the memes from, no one knows. Meme pops up on the screen. Me. Why, there's a guy sitting at a bar, right? He's sitting there. He says, I'm explaining it because some of you listening audio only. The guy says, man, this escape room is really hard. And the guy says, sir, this is a brewery. Sometimes producer Chad and I feel that way at the liquor store. We're like, hey, this is really tough here. This is exit escape room. Sir, you're on the wine aisle. You should. Producer Chad and I get lost sometimes. We understand. We understand the feeling. Round around the world we go. Where we steal the memes from, no one knows. Look at the photo there. Anybody? Can you smell the hairspray in that? It's ladies with the high top, the hair, the 80s hair. And this is actually true. They all smelled vaguely of Marlboro, Boone's Farm, and Aquanet. It was glorious. You can almost smell that photo. If you just look at that photo, you can almost smell it, can't you? Little Marlboro out there. Anybody else have? I remember before I got to high school, our high school used to have a smoking area. It was well before me. I was a kid. You're like, they get to smoke at high school, and there's a place. I think it's called the patio. Kids. It was abolished before I got to high school, but I remember the rumor was you got to smoke in between class. The kids were going to smoke cigarettes, and then when they shut that down, everybody go across the street from the school and smoke cigarettes during their class break and go back in. But yeah, never a cigarette. But that photo, I could smell that photo from afar. Round around the world we go. Where we steal the beans from, no one knows. We have Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez up there with a baffled look on her face, a befuddled barmaid look, says, can I ask a stupid question? And then there's a meme of Donald Trump saying, yeah, better than anybody I know. How many people have you ever wanted to say that to? Jimmy, I have a stupid question. Well, I wouldn't expect anything better than that from you. All right. That's how I feel sometimes. All right, let's see if we milked it dry. Round around the world we go. Where we steal the memes from, no one knows. Oh, the last one. Here we go. It's a sign. Whatever you do, this is my encouragement for all of you today. Whatever you do today, this Monday, this glorious day the Lord has made, I want you to do it with the confidence of a 4-year-old in a Batman t-shirt. You ever see that kid that goes to the grocery store with his mama? And he's got his short pants on and his little diaper, and he got a cowboy hat and a holstered gun on his waist, and he's 3. Yeah, that's confidence, my friend. Today, live your life with the confidence of a 4-year-old wearing a Batman t-shirt and a towel around his neck, ready to be Superman. Live your life with confidence like that. All right, it's been a pleasure. I'd like to brag about your business if I can. Wherever you're at, under the sound of my dulcet tones, we're helping people grow their business, brag about them. It's not that expensive. It's we can geo-territory it. Of course, we talk a lot about Colorado because of my ties to Colorado. But if you're out of state, love to let the world know about your business as well. All you got to do is say info@jimmylakey.com. That's the best way to contact us, info@jimmylakey.com. All right, I feel a coughing spell coming on, but let me read a couple of comments. Ray just sent something up. Jimmy, since Congress has a hug a thug and kiss a criminal mentality, let's house those gang members in their homes. They have walls and guards. I'm thinking this. So what's his name? Van Hollen from Connecticut. I'm thinking his hug a thug and kiss a criminal mentality. He probably has a couple of illegals that maybe could go stay with him. I'm not opposed to that. I think he should open up his own home. And it's kind of like when Marco Rubio and Greg Abbott dropped the, remember they dropped the illegals in Martha's Vineyard? And they had Martha's Vineyard cleared out within 3 hours. I mean, everybody showed up with gifts. Oh, you poor immigrant. Here's a pair of socks. Now get the hell out of our, and they bust them out of there quickly. Yeah, these leftists out there, my friends, they're not really compassionate people. They're just a bunch of whiners, and they want these people to be here, not because they want to live next door to them, but they just don't want Donald Trump to have any success at all because they have the Trump derangement syndrome. Ladies and gentlemen, it has been a pure slice of heaven. Info@JimmyLakey.com. Info@JimmyLakey.com. Hey, the cough is better. I'm getting a lot better. The allergies. It's not really a cold, it's allergies. Hey, until we meet again tomorrow, I mean this from the bottom of my heart. Go subscribe on all the platforms. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, all of them, and make sure you listen to the show. And all the interviews that go up there. We have other interviews that will be dropping the next week, and you're going to get those. Subscribe to us on the podcast platforms. If you're watching live, thank you very much. I am Jimmy Lakey. And go, put on that Batman shirt and go conquer the world. May God bless you. May God bless America. Jimmy Lakey, I am out of here.